So we're looking at two different things today. We're looking at how we're going to pull together your content plans and sort of wrap up your marketing plan creation, then setting priorities and measuring results. Because that's really what it's all about. We've been leading up to that point. So I want to make sure that we cover it at length. And I hope that this course has been helpful to you. I know that Jessica, Amanda, Kitty, and the team have all put a lot of thought into trying to create this course and make it useful for you, as have I. And we welcome your feedback on other things that we could do in the future to help and support you. I have a couple ideas towards the end, and I'll give you, you've got my email address. I can also put in the chat box a link to be able to put a meeting on my calendar that if you have more questions after tonight, you can get it. Oh, that's kind of you, Leanne. I'm going to, in fact, put the link in the chat box right now for those of you that are using it, that if you didn't get your questions answered or you have more things that come up as you start putting your stuff together, just let me know. You're welcome to email me, or that link will actually let you put a meeting directly on my calendar. So that I can make sure that you feel like you got what you wanted in creating your marketing plan. And I just want to cover really quickly, like this has been a crazy 9 weeks. Like you might have forgotten all this hard work that you've done. In the first week, we went over some industry trends, getting started, and the outline of the plan. And that freaked a lot of you out. You were like, oh my God, there's so much info, which was cool. I get it. But that was the one where we went over a lot of data in terms of how important doing a lot of the work you're doing here is going to be. In week 2, we talked about setting SMART goals. And honestly, we hit on it again every week since. But that week is when you really saw the presentation focus on what a SMART goal is, how to deploy it. In week 3, we talked about your brand promise. And this was also when we talked about how your customer was the hero of your own story. That one really resonated with a lot of you and helped you really think about how you talk about your business, which is, you know, that all by itself is really helpful, even if you don't create your plan. So that's what you'll find in week 3. And of course, you can go onto the website and download each of these presentations. And week 4, we talked about target and ideal audience. And in that one, that's where I shared the story of the spa and how their marketing and actually even the decor and their entire focus of the spa changed a lot when they really focused on target and ideal audience. And the business has been able to weather the pandemic really well, has been very strong in putting up growth numbers year over year because of that specific focus. And so that was when we really talked about like sort of how to zero in like that. In week 5, we looked at finding opportunity and what marketing channels and outlets there are and product market fit. So it was like, okay, we've got this target audience, we've got this brand promise, we know who we are. How do we fit? How do we solve the problems of that target audience? And then where do I go find those people? Was really what week 5 was about. In week 6, we talked about really strategic thinking. Now that you had all of that settled, how are we going to develop a strategy? We're going to look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in competition in peers to figure out how that sort of factors into our planning. Week 7, we pulled together all of your assets and developed an action plan on what needs to be fixed, what's okay, what do I need to work on? And then last week, we were going to cover your content plan and sort of how to build a content plan. And really a content plan is, okay, I'm going to put this information out in this place on this day. So I'm going to put a sign up in my store. I'm going to put an ad in the newspaper. I'm going to put this on Facebook, this on my website, this on Pinterest, whatever. Tonight, we are going to talk about that at a high level. And the biggest question I get anywhere we've helped more than 50,000 small businesses in the 12 years that Dream Local Digital has been in business. And one of the questions I get the most is, what do I write about? Like, what do I talk about? And so I'm going to focus a little less tonight on creating the content plan and a little less on some of the measurement, which might be too detailed for many of you. And I'm really going to zero in on that 3 lists. which is the core of the kinds of content that you should create on your website, on any advertisements, on your social media channels, and how they will impact your business going forward, because it is the biggest question I get. And then we will wrap it up with a few things to be looking for to measure your results and make sure that all that time and effort that you spend is working in your favor. So creating a content plan is really about having the discipline to plan ahead what you're going to put out there, whether it's what you put out there on social media, what you put out there in your store if you have one, or your website. It's really sitting down and thinking about things a month. I would recommend a month at a time. You could do a week at a time if that's easier for you. So really what I try to do is look at, excuse me, what is my goal? Like, what is my SMART goal? What is it I'm trying to talk about? Who's my target audience that I'm speaking to? And what is it I want them to do? And then I plan out what we're going to write. And I could tell you that even though it takes some work and discipline to get there, you will find that no matter how good you are, your results will improve by doing this at minimum. You know, a lot of people wake up in the morning and put stuff on social media and think that they're changing their business. And I'd argue that if you don't really tie it back to your goals or sort of have a plan, it rarely works that way. So I would encourage you to consider trying to put your stuff together. And for each post or each thing you're going to write, make sure you think about how it's going to motivate a customer, what it is you want that customer to think, feel, or do when they're doing it. And I ask my team, what are you posting and why? Why are you talking about this? Because, you know, this isn't as true now as it used to a couple of years ago, but I would always get like bummed out when I'd see businesses posting like Happy Monday or some silly little meme that they found. You know, sometimes a little sense of humor is a good thing, but generally speaking, being lazy on social media hurts your brand more than it helps your brand. So if you don't have anything to say, don't say anything is not terrible advice. So I'd recommend that you create a content plan. And I did give you some resources for that work. Is one of the items that you've had in your resource packs on your website that actually just gave you a Excel spreadsheet that allowed you to sort of put some stuff together. And what I put at the top is what's in your mix, like where are you a resource to your clients? How are you like being a thought leader? What's happening behind the scenes in your organization or something funny? What's promotional? What's curated from somebody else? So that you can kind of have a mix because a mix is really important. But I did give you a Excel spreadsheet template for that work. You'll also find the last slide of today's presentation. And if you look on the separate ones, week 8, week 9, it's always the last slide or one of the last slides. It has links to a lot more free templates. So if this one isn't your jam, you want something else, I've got some links for you to find a good template for you to sort of put this stuff together. Okay, so once you start creating your content plan, this is where everything really starts coming together. Everything we've been talking about each week is now something, all that muscle that you've built is going to be used today, right? Like everything you've been thinking about, your brand promise, your story, your strengths and opportunities, your competitive landscape, your strategy, it's all going to come together today. And so think about, at minimum, you've got your SMART goals, your target customer, what marketing channels you've chosen. Let's say it's Facebook, for example, or Instagram or LinkedIn, which might be a good one for Kitty, for example. You've got your goals, your target customer, your channel, and then your planning is just how you're going to balance all of those 3 things together. I hope that helps and makes sense. And does everybody, does that feel like it makes sense to everybody before I move on so that I don't like speed past this? I want to make sure you get everything, but so I think really at the high level, whether you use a spreadsheet or whether you map it out on a piece of paper and then type it in later, the concept of planning it in a group is really what I'm trying to get to, because over the course of the past several weeks, you've been thinking about a calendar, you've been thinking about the big picture, and just being spontaneous in the moment and posting something is taking you away from that discipline. So you really want to be thinking about yourself, your business, your goals, and it makes the content much more effective when you do that. So whatever vessel you use, try that. And if you have questions, you've got my calendar link, you let me know. I would recommend that you consider a mix. And there's a couple different ways to think about a mix. The first mix is like a cocktail party. You don't just talk about what you sell the whole time. You also listen to people. You might have a funny, witty joke. You might tell them about some past experience. You want a little bit of a mix. So we look at a mix of types of content, like I'm going to be a resource for people. I'm going to talk about what I sell. I'm going to share a customer story. I'm going to show a piece of work, right? Like even something like that can help you create a series of posts. The other thing to consider is some of the content that you create is going to fuel search engine optimization. So, and I know I'm going to get a tiny bit technical here, but I promise I won't stay there for too long. The words and phrases that you put on your website are looked at by Google as sort of your definition of what you're good at. And so when people type something into a box, into the search box, like best bank for a small business, if you want the answer to be Machias Savings Bank, then you should somewhere on your website indicate that you are the best bank for a small business, right? So what I would recommend is that, you know, and I have a whole workshop on this alone, like we sit down with a piece of paper and you write down all the things you want to show up under a search engine on, and then you read your website and read some of the things you write on social media and do they contain them? So search is the one thing to think about. The second one is sales and connections. Like, how am I going to like sell my product? How do I make sure that people know what I'm doing? How can I show case studies of customers or before and afters of work, testimonials, all of that kind of piece. And then the third is brand awareness. This is, I want more people to know about me, period. Like, I just want them to know I'm out there. And in those cases, this is a good example of what Richard's question was. In those cases, a lot of people touching it is really important to have it be seen, right? So those are the times where you want a lot of action. Once we did a post for a, I'm trying to think of Trap Mill. We have a Brooks Trap Mill is a client of ours. And we did a post on St. Patrick's Day of a green lobster and had like a funny little Irish thing. And we had like 13,000 people share it, which was just this crazy amount of engagement. And are 13,000 people going to walk in the door at Brooks Trap Mill and buy rope or gear or boots or sweatshirts? No, but it did keep us really top of mind. It allowed us to gain a few new fans. And so it was about just having more people know we were there. So a mix of all of those is really important. Okay, and when you're trying to think about inspiration of what are you going to write, as I said, this is the biggest question I've had in all of our 12 years and all the businesses that we've helped. So I tried to think of a way to answer that question succinctly so that I get you out of here on time. And so I'm going to give you the 3 lists of content that you should create. Oh, thank you, Amanda. That's awesome. The 3 lists that you should be thinking about that answers the question, what do I write about? Whether you're writing on your own website, on social media, or talking about your business. So here we go. The 3 lists are number 1, where do you want to be the answer in the search box? So this is where I would highly recommend, I can't believe I'm going to say it, that you step away from your computer and you get a pen and a clipboard or notebook and piece of paper. And I want you to make a list. And it doesn't just have to be one word, it could be a phrase, best bank for small businesses. Whatever those things are, that if somebody types that into the box, you want to be the one. And also I want you to think about where does geography play a role? Like if you might not want to be that answer nationwide. Maybe you want to be that answer from Machias to, geez, she pulled me and I forgot. Whatever the towns are that the limits are, that the branches are for Machias Savings Bank, or for you, maybe it's Maine, or maybe it's New England, whatever that is. Where do you want to be the answer, and how does geography play into that? And I share that because one of the most popular amendments to a search is near me. So pizza near me, furniture near me, etc. A bowling alley near me. And so Google, when that happens, they look at the best one, but they're looking at a very specific geography. And also, what topics are you an expert in? Is there something that you're the one? And it could be your work, your craft, what you do. And so make that list. And then I want you to rank it and prioritize it. The reason I say this is you want to show up under all kinds of them, but you can make meaningful difference on some of them versus trying a little bit at all. So I always ask our clients to then force rank them. Like, what's most important to you? Like, who's your biggest customer? And remember that week where we talked about target and ideal customers? This is where that matters a lot, right? So you want to show up to all kinds of people, but who are the ones you really want to, or what are the problems you want to solve the most? So that's number one. Now, when you get the answer to these, the most important ones should be a blog post or page on your website, for sure. So if you think that you want to be a resource for small businesses, or you want to really, you're building furniture for dining rooms, or you're baking cakes for special events, or you are helping businesses manage their finances, whatever the problem is you solve, make sure you talk a lot about it on your website. And then in your social media posts, when you're putting together your plan for the month, make sure you're hitting on that once or twice, because those are your most important things. So this should help you prioritize your time and effort and make sure that those words are on your website in the customer's voice. Remember, not your voice, their voice, because they're the ones that are going to type something into a search box. And so use the verbiage that they would use, or the definitions that they would use. Okay, that's list number one. List number two, and this one annoys some business owners when I bring it up. It's, what do you hear regularly? So if you're a small company, then you probably know really quickly what a lot of the questions are about your business. And they might seem stupid to you. Like, they might be like, oh my goodness, that's not apples to apples. That's silly. But whatever it is, whatever questions you get a lot, that's what matters. Make a list. If you're a larger company, I would highly encourage you to talk to your call center or your customer service people who help customers when they have questions. Get that list. And then your sales force, whoever's selling, I think the biggest list that's the most valuable here is objections. Like, what are the objections? I can't afford it. I want to try to do it myself. My cousin does it. Whatever the objections are, make a list of those, because this is really, think about them as the questions you need to overcome to win, right? Like, this is what I need to answer in some way. Like, can I afford custom furniture? How much does a pool cost? All of these are questions that people have in their heads. And so the more proactively that you can speak the customer's language and answer that proactively on your website and in your social posts, the closer you'll get to somebody buying, engaging with you. It's a lot of times people have these hidden objections and we just don't address them. You know what I mean? And like, I had a gentleman today ask for 15 minutes of my time. We have mutual connections. I gave it to him. He is a financial planner and he just wants to chit chat, and then says, oh, and by the way, if you need help planning your money, you should let me know. And what I really wanted to say is, you should have in the beginning said, do you need help managing your money? Because I could have saved my 15 minutes and your 15 minutes and actually introduced you to 3 of my friends that do need help with that. But get to the objection, get to the point quickly when you can, and be proactive. And when you can do it, it doesn't work with everything. But when you can do it and make the headline of the blog post or your social media post the question, it really works. So I am doing a series of quick marketing minutes for Greenlight Maine. And instead of just rambling on and saying, okay, today we're going to talk about a marketing plan, I start with a question every time. Do reviews really matter? Do online reviews really matter? Yes, they do. Like the more you can start with that question, it makes people think, oh, I have that question too. And then they listen to what you have to say. And it also has a chance that it can really sync up with what people are typing into a search box. When Google sees the same question and then in text answering it, they're going to send people to you over someone else. Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3, what do you wish that everyone knew about you? Like if like a full page story was going to be written about you, or you were going to be on TV, like what would you want the headline to be? What would the story cover about your business? What makes you different? Like this is back to when I was telling you to tell your story and your customer's the hero. That's what's here in number 3. And then the last part about it is, how do you tailor your work for your customer's specific needs? And then that's something that should be part of your content mix. So if you take these 3 lists, plus your brand promise, your target customer that we've covered in this marketing plan, you guys ought to be able to create a lot of great content. And if you need more inspiration in the week that we talked about your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and I recommended that you look at some peers that do something similar, look at them and see if you see some other ideas for inspiration. But I hope those 3 lists give you some ideas on what to write about. Does anybody have questions before I leave that? So other content tips: make it valuable, aspirational, to really help people get it. Think about unique content. And I love creating evergreen content. And that means that, for example, I have a couple pieces for one of our roofer clients about icicles and ice dams and what that means about your roof, what it means about your gutters, and how you can deal with it yourself or when to ask for help. And we bring that baby out every winter. And it doesn't mean that we're lazy. It's still relevant. It actually helps people. Like ice dams don't change every year. They're the same. So whenever you can create that kind of content, you're just building up an asset list for yourself that can be really valuable. So the digital portion of your strategy is going to be looking at your website, how you show up on search, any content that you're putting out, email if you have it, social, and maybe ads, pay-per-click ads if you choose to do them. But you'll also have anything you're doing offline, any events, signage, brochure, sponsorships, like some people sponsor Little League teams, vehicles. I say that because I always make all my contractors brand all their trucks and they get annoyed, but it really works. In-store sales or promotions. So those are really going to help make up your overall plan. And then you have a marketing plan, which is really exciting. And I'm very proud of all, at minimum, even if you haven't written a darn thing, it's all the progress you've made thinking about it. And nice, Leanne just had her car wrapped. Love it. Like, I think recognize that having that branding on the vehicle makes so much sense. One of my roofers, like we had a real big fight in the beginning where I actually said to him, I'm going to need you to make all the trucks the same color. It is a moving billboard, to your point, Leanne, but it was not just that, it was the color. So he argued with me, and then I just called 5 dealerships and said, hey guys, whenever you have one of these in red, I want you to call him. And I made him paint 2 black ones red. Now the man wears red in everything. All of the vehicles are red, because then they really help with that brand recognition when his logo's on it. Like, it's just so visible. And people think he's everywhere all the time. And those are his vehicles doing that. So good for you, Leanne. Everything that you do is marketing your business. It's not just online. So now you've got the means of a content plan. And I know we're up against it with time. I've got 6 minutes, but I want to spend a few minutes talking to you about how to measure your your progress, excuse me, and then also a little bit of priority setting. So we're going to whip through these pretty quickly. A couple of things that I want you to measure is, remember, it's measuring it against your goals. You don't just say, oh, I hope I got some website traffic. You think, okay, last month we had this. What am I doing this month? How does that relate to my goals? You measure website traffic. There's a free tool called Google Analytics. I'm sure most of you are probably using it. If you aren't or have questions about it, let me know. Or whomever built your website, ask them about it. You want to look at conversions. If a bunch of people emailed you or wrote you, did they buy anything? Like, did anyone buy anything? That's a conversion. Social media, are you reaching more people and are they engaging with you? A lot of people ask me, how many fans am I supposed to have? The average small business in the US has about 800 fans on Facebook. A lot have less, some have many more, but the real thing that matters is how much they're engaging with you. So if you have only 200 fans, but you got a lot of engagement, you're way ahead of somebody who has 1,000 fans and nobody likes or shares anything. So really look at that engagement, pay attention to it, make sure it's going up and that it's speaking to your target audiences. Search ranking for some of you is something you want to measure, like how well are you stacking up against competitors when people are searching. And if you go back to list number 1 that I talked about, that's really going to make a huge difference. If you start putting content on your website that helps you address those things, it'll show up. Okay, thanks, Amanda. Email and if you're sending out email, is anybody opening it? Is my list healthy? And bounce rate, that is somebody opens your email and then gets right out. Same is true on your website. Somebody comes to your website and gets right out. Bounce rates aren't good. And your email tool, whatever you're using, should give you that data. And then finally, how much time did you spend and how much money have you spent doing this? And do you feel like it's helped you reach your SMART goals that you set? And, I think we all wish we could do more. I know I definitely feel that way in my business as well. So, it's a little bit relative, but when you've set a SMART goal that's measurable and attainable and time bound, then you should be able to see how well you're progressing. And I think the biggest thing for all of us who are running our own businesses, our own marketing, is ask for help when you need it. So that gives you a few ideas of the things you should be looking at. And I've got a couple other graphics for you here to give you a little bit more background on that. And when you go back and look at the deck, you can dig into them more. Obviously, revenue is a metric I didn't measure on the last one, largely because revenue alone by itself isn't telling you everything you need to know. But the more you know about where the revenue is coming from, the closer you are. So here's the key KPIs, or marketing nerd definition, key performance indicator. It's essentially something you're looking at. Is my website traffic growing? Are the people who are visiting converting, and that number is at least going up or staying steady? Am I generating sales leads if that's appropriate for your business, and opportunities, new customers, revenue, and profit? Like, those are the big things to be looking at in terms of measuring your overall results. And social media metrics, what I'm trying to do is think about what you might be trying to do, and then what would that look like on social? So if you're just trying to figure out Facebook, for example, and you're trying to get more brand awareness, then here's the idea of the strategy is I want more people to see my content. I'm going to be boosting some posts. I'm looking at impressions and reach in the admin. And this is the business impact. More people have top of mind awareness about me. So that gives you a little bit more marketing nerdiness of what to look for in your Facebook admin panel. You also want to think about asking customers, how did they find you? So what are your customers looking for? And if somebody comes into your store or they want to engage with you, asking them, how is it that they found you? Like, what is it that made them come to you? And when you buy traditional media, newspaper, radio, or TV, what I want you to ask for is reach. right? Like how many people see this? So if it's a newspaper ad, how many people are getting the newspaper, whatever it is, make sure that you're asking for the reach, how many, and that you're looking closely at the rate they're charging you. We work with a lot of traditional media companies, but what we find is their audiences are shrinking, and that's fine. Like that's not necessarily a bad thing, because if your target audience is using traditional media, you want to be there. But make sure that you're really thoughtful about the money that you spend in that direction, and that you feel like you can measure the results. When it comes to setting your priorities, many of us are, individuals trying to get a lot of stuff done on our own. Make sure you look at where you think you can have the greatest impact. Like I always ask myself, where am I the best person to answer this question or do it, right? Like some of it should be me, some of it could be several people. And so I try to understand the difference between those two and focus on what's going to resonate the most with your audience, the pieces you'll use the most. Maybe it's a brochure that you want to show people, or a portfolio of your work that's online or in print. Recognize what you think is going to really help you hit your SMART goals the most. And that's where you should set your priorities. And as we talked about a couple of weeks in a row, make sure that you're developing a plan of attack per goal, because I find that even if I'm just trying to do something small, the more actionable it is, the more I feel like I'm really getting something done, and I'm really moving myself closer to my goal. So make sure that you consider making it actionable in what you're doing. Map it out into calendars like we've talked about, and now you've done it, right? Like, so you have just successfully completed a 9-week course in writing a marketing plan. And if you have any more questions, I want you to feel free to reach out to me. We also have a coaching program called Skills Builder that's right for some businesses, but not for everybody. And if that's something you're interested in, let me know. But there's my email address, and I put my calendar link in there. So I'll open it up for questions. I'm 2 minutes late, sorry about that.